Welcome back on the program. It's 31 years after the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, and some heroes of the struggle have been maintained that the agitation was worth it. This as even the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, gave the needed recognition to June 12, and the president who never got to serve, MK Abiola, were not perfect. The election was widely seen as a significant improvement over previous elections in Nigeria, which had been marred by fraud and some other riggings. President Bola Tinubu, in a speech, paid tribute to the country heroes and key players in the political space who fought for the country's democracy.
Great heroes and heroines along the way. In this struggle, the winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief MKO Abiola, the most significant symbol of our democratic struggle, his wife, Kudirat, General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, and Pa Alfred Iwani, amongst others, sacrificed their very lives. They bravely surrendered their fortunes so that our nation might have a better one. Let us honor the memories of Chief Anthony Enahoro, Chief Abraham Adesanya, Commodore Dan Sulaiman, Chief Athon Wanko, Chief Chukwuemeka Ezeve, Admiral Ndibusi Kanu, Chief Frank Kokori, Chief Bola Ige, Chief Adekunle Ajasin, Chief Gani Udaudu, Chief Ayo Fasami, Chief Gani Fawemi, Chief Olabi Idrojaye, Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti, Chima Ubani, and others who have transited to higher realm. The sacrifices of General Alani Akinrade, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Professor Wole Soyinka, Chief Rab Obioha, Chief Colonius Adebayo, among many others, should never be forgotten. We have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less.
Well, President Bola Tinubu, they're giving accolades to some heroes of democracy. Joining us in the studio is the Executive Director, Run to Win, Remi Ogunkayo, and via Zoom, we have political affairs analyst and former Africa representative, World Assembly of Youth, Marvins Yobana. Let's start with you, Remi Ogunkayo. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria. How do you see this compared to some expectations of Nigerians?
As I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we're talking about democracy and what has happened, I think you have to look at where we were coming from to really appreciate where we are now. And one of the features of the previous years before democracy was that you couldn't even plan with anything. But now, even if we all decided to vote somebody, if we decide that we don't like the performance of that person, after 4 years we can decide to change that person. But previously, we could wake up today and find out that the government has changed. A year after, the government has changed. So you couldn't even plan with anything. So even though democracy has its kinks and what doesn't really work, it's much, much better than where we've come from.
And like the president said in his speech, if you follow this speech, this is more like the first time the president is specifically mentioning names. We have a sitting president mentioning a considerable number of persons that were involved in that struggle. But if you look at then and now, what would you say are some of the significant milestones? And of course, we will be acknowledging some of the challenges that we have faced. But let's start with that.
I think we have to admit that there's been a lot of infrastructural progress that has happened in Nigeria. People don't like to talk about things like the telecom revolution that has happened in that period. I think if we're very, very measured, we'll be able to see that we've had progress in the last 25 years because things have been progressively better. However, there has been a lot of things that didn't work as planned. There's been rampant corruption, violence, all kinds of things, and the inequality has more or less increased, but we cannot say that there has not been progress for the last 25 years.
Well, talking about the progress, some Nigerians will say that this administration came with a renewed hope. And what they want to see is the change in all spheres of life. So what's your message to them vis-a-vis the 25 years of unbroken democracy that we are celebrating at this time?
I think the challenge with politicians when they're campaigning is that we campaign a lot on hope. And so we don't really see the reality of what is happening in the country. And so because of that, the expectations of successive governments have been very, very high without really putting to the people the stark reality of the challenges that exist and the plans of how they intend to solve those challenges. So whilst the current administration campaign on renewed hope, the challenges that the government met are significant. Thankfully,
what are those challenges?
The revenue, our revenue, and the costs of governance, the production of the average Nigerian, because that contributes to the GDP of the country. So these are, and of course, infrastructural challenges that exist across the country, security challenges that exist across the country, and all these things make the life of the average person very, very difficult in Nigeria.
And would you really put the blame on the cost of governance here, or a lack of revenue, or over-reliance on oil, like the president said?
So, like he said he campaigned for this job. He understood the difficulty of the job that he took. The only place where I would say the political class has control is the cost of governance. And I'm not even talking about just the president, because you have to take the political class as one. And that's a place where I think that they can and still do something that significantly affects the direction of the country. We're living as if you look at the political class, we're living as if we are a rich country, and we're not essentially a rich country. We're a country that is still developing. So I think that's one thing I think they can do. But the others are things that will take time for them to be able to solve those challenges.
Looking at these, some economic policies of this administration, some have come out to criticize that no, the government should have done this and put some things in place, especially with the removal of fuel subsidy. And a lot of Nigerians have been agitating concerning this one and what the government is doing to cushion the effect of this. What will you say concerning this vis-a-vis the 25 years that we're celebrating? But just a moment, let me put you on a pause at the time. Let's take a listen to this market survey ahead of our Salah celebration and what Nigerians are saying concerning this.
Before, right? Let's say 25,000, 20,000 on it. But now, it's not like that. Like now, you can say if you make 10,000, just thank God for it. Like last year, the highest of RAM is 500,450. But now, even we have RAM of 1 million for one single RAM. Like all this now is 500 mml, 900, 850.
All the cow seller, when they go to north to buy cow, carry come to this land, Boko Haram don't finish all of them. There are some thieves in those areas. If they see an owner, we pursue the cow like 300, 400 cow. Those boys, then they will go attack them, kill them, and collect their cow.
Before, this thing is 3,000, 4,000. Now it's 18,000. It dey cost fast.
These people that won't kill us, see what thing that they sell for this market now. Now, well, we not go fit buy am o. Me, I be allowed now every year they kill am o. Last year I kill am, I kill 3 ram. This year they no want make I kill 1 o, madam.
What things is talking about now? I don't think I can be able to get what I want from here now. Imagine ram that we bought last year, I bought the ram of 110,000, and I'm very happy with it. Now today, the same.
What do you make of the economic realities of Nigerians there? You had them saying things are not the way it used to be.
I think the first reality we have to accept is that the reason why most of the previous administrations didn't remove fuel subsidy was because it's directly tied to cost of living. So that has essentially increased inflation. That's essentially brought about runaway inflation. And there's no doubt that the living conditions of Nigeria has significantly become difficult because of that. And if you look at what people are saying, you'd realize that there's a lot of pain that Nigerians are suffering. But as I always say, Nigeria has wicked problems. You solve one problem, it creates another problem. You solve the other problem, it creates another problem. And that's why governance is difficult.
All right, joining us via Zoom is the former Africa representative, World Assembly of Youth, Marvin Yobana. Many thanks for joining us on the program this morning. Give us an understanding. Marvin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
A very good morning to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, give us an understanding of 25 years of unbroken democracy, where we are coming from, where we are at the moment, and the projection into the future.
Well, it is a thing that Nigerians are supposed to congratulate themselves, because as we speak today in Africa, we are one of the largest, if not the largest democracy today, and the longest. We have gone through a lot of things. We've seen military reign, we've seen the civilian regime too, and we know that we cannot compare democracy to military dictatorship. There's no comparison in any way, because we are guided by laws, and this is a country of laws. We have different arms of government, and they are independent in their own rights. Even if some persons will argue that the executive has overbearing influence over some of the other arms of government. But as we speak, democracy remains the best. Think about those who fought for this democracy, including those who have laid down their lives for it as we speak.
All right, it seems we lost connection with Marvin Yobana there. Back to the studio at the moment, Mr. Agunkayo. You heard him there saying it's a reason to celebrate. And looking at all what we have seen, you cannot compare the military. I guess it's back at the moment. You can continue with your line of thought.
Good. So even the current president was one of those who were in the trenches during the military and fought. We have the likes of the man we are celebrating, MKO Abiola, who won a free and fair, one of the freest, or maybe the freest election we've ever had so far. We had those who died for it, and we had seasoned journalists who were investigative journalists who were not afraid of the military. You know what happened to Gani Fawmi, and the rest of them. We have a lot of them incarcerated because of this thing. A lot of those, Shehu Sani, who was a senator from Kaduna, was one of those persons. We have the likes of those who are here today fighting. So I think that democracy is something, for instance, me, during the military, I'm from Ogoni, Axis. We remember that when the military was there, we said no, we wanted the rights. And we started fighting during the Abacha times. A lot of persons were incarcerated, including me, I was arrested. So, but today, I can speak freely, I can criticize the government, and I will not be arrested as long as I stay between the bounds of the law. So it is something to celebrate. And look at the gains we've had. Look at what, for instance, this 1 year of Tinubu's administration. Look at the gains we've had in the Niger Delta. Crime has reduced in the Niger Delta. The Niger Delta Development Commission, for the first time, they are commissioning projects, physical projects. You can see bridges, roads, and so on. They are training a lot of young people. So look at what is happening. For instance, in my state, Rivers State today, a governor who is doing his first term can be liberated from the clutches of any dictatorial moves by political gladiators.
All right, comrades. So, when you say that Nigerians should celebrate, we can say it is conceptual in the sense that it depends on when you speak to an average Nigerian, what is their perception of what growth is, what celebration is as regards democracy. An average Nigerian has seen at least a 4% or fourfold increase in the economy. Is it really worth celebrating when you look at economic situation? I understand that you are taking it from the angle of governance, but let's look at the economy. Is it worth celebrating?
You are very, very right. Every Nigerian knows that the economy now is very difficult and is biting. People can no longer afford those things they used to afford. But how did we get here? It's the question we need to look at. Because every nation, look at America's democracy, it has been over how many years? Going to 200 years or so. There are other democracies who have, they went through this teaching process. You see, we have to pay the price for whatever we want. Look, take for instance, one item that caused a lot of these issues we're having in the economy today, the removal of fuel subsidy, for instance, that was embundled in corruption and that Nigeria was bleeding through that means. You see, and if you want to correct the narrative, definitely those who are beneficiaries of this corruption will definitely make things difficult for you. But for the ordinary Nigerian, what they want to see, they want to see food on their table, they want to have shelter, they want to have good healthcare, and that is why the hard policies that the present administration of Ahmed Tinubu has taken will definitely go to that part. But we are going to feel the pains, and we are feeling the pains. That is why government needs to be humane. Government needs to listen to the people and go by what the people say. But it's not everything that the people say that is realistic. For instance, look at what is happening between Labour and the federal government. That humongous amount of money they're asking, it is not so much money. But if the federal government and the state government decide to do it, that means the government will shut down completely and it will get into more precarious situation. So
and now,
something that they, yes?
You can wrap up your statement.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that everybody has a price to pay for us to get to where we want to go. It is not an easy road, so we have to pay the price. For instance, in my state, as we speak, government has concentrated on those key areas that affect the people. Talk about housing, talk about healthcare, talk about infrastructure. Look at all the regional hospitals. As we speak today, is being upgraded by the state government and other things. And this governor here in the state is daring projects he's going to, projects that no state governor will want to do. It's very ambitious projects that cost humongous sums of money without.
All right, comrade. In as much as we acknowledge the fact that we have come a long way, more still needs to be done. We've also talked about the type of governance. We've talked about how our economy is currently. Let's talk about the respect for the rule of law. Human rights and freedoms are at the core of every democratic dispensation. If you look at the rules governing politics, governance, and other conduct, would you say we have grown as regards the respect for the rule of law?
We've not gotten there at all. The government has not changed in terms of respect for the rule of law. When I mean government, I'm looking at the 3 tiers of government. They have not, most of our leaders have not changed. They have this domineering attitude and disdain for what the law says. There you find a state governor not respecting the court order, where you find the federal government not respecting court order. And you see, human beings have rights, right to protest, right to express themselves. So that is why I stand solidly with Senator Shehu Sani in his appeal he made to Mr. President, because Mr. President feels the pain. He has been in the trenches before. Those persons who were arrested during the NSAS, although these cases in the law court, and there are other political solutions to some of these issues that pertain to the people. Look at the case of Nnamdi Kanu, how we can bring peace to the southeastern part of Nigeria. So we can have political solutions to some of these agitations. And for those persons, like journalists that are being incarcerated, for no just cause because maybe they talk against one governor or one VIP. So these are the things that the president should also use his veto power. But in doing that, he cannot encroach on the other arms of government to do their job. So that is why we must stop, say the judiciary should be upright and look at political solutions to some of these problems. The same thing with the legislative arm of government.
Comrade Ubana, let's put you on the pause at the moment. Just hold on, hold your thoughts. Let me come back to you, Mr. Ogunkayo here in the studio. 1993 election, that's the June 12, 1993 election, was declared free, fair, and credible. How do we juxtapose this with our present day elections that we're having? Just the 2023 elections we had, what are those irregularities that you saw there that things can be done better to make it more credible?
I agree that the 1993 elections were possibly the gold standard for elections for us in Nigeria, because most people adjudge it as fair and credible. But if you look at previous elections before this, there were a lot of irregularities that happened, and the introduction of the beavers, whilst you might have some criticisms about how it was implemented, it significantly changed how elections have been done in Nigeria. There were so many upsets that people that you wouldn't believe would lose elections ordinarily lost elections in this last election just because of the introduction of beavers. So yes, I think that over the course of the last maybe 25 years that we've come back to democracy, there's been a lot of improvement in how we've conducted our elections. Is it there? No, but it's way better than it was over the last maybe 25 years that we've. So it shows that there's some form of progress that we're making.
Are there corrections that we need to put in place?
Yes, I think the first one of the causes of controversy that happened in the last election was the transmission of results. ANEC had already gone out to say that results were transmitted electronically and immediately, and that transparency is a very important part of elections. That the lack of transparency of what happened there put a dampener in how people perceive those elections. So I think we need to go back to the transparency of results, and that will help in making people believe that these were credible and real elections.
And now that we are moving towards the 26th year, even if it's just some days after the 25th year celebration of democracy, there are calls for devolution of powers, regional government, changing the system of governance to ensure that states are more independent, local governments are also autonomous in nature. What should be the way forward to ensure a robust economy and also, a breakthrough as regards our security?
I think the first and most important thing is that we need to go back to the real reason for democracy. You are governed by, it's the government of the people. So people must feel that they have a say in the government. So whatever great plans all the leaders may have, it's important to take the people along. So we must be able to vote for all the changes that people feel might improve our lives. We must be able to have a say in how we're being governed. And I think that's the most important thing.
Let's quickly come to you, Comrade Marvin Yobana. What's your advice to Nigerians, to the president, and to all about the way forward concerning what we are saying? It's 25 years of unbroken democracy, a quarter of a century. Your advice to Nigerians?
Well, my advice to Nigerians would be that we should not take the democracy we have today for granted, because we don't have any other best style of government or form of government than the people choosing their leaders and having rights periodically to go back to the polls and elect their leaders. But government also, on the other hand, must not take what they have for granted. We must look at issues of food security, issues that have to unlock our natural resources so that we can have alternative means of funding for the country. We must look at transforming our infrastructure so that we could generate revenue without looking at government every month for handouts or stipends. These are key things that government need to know, and government must make governance. The people should be part of governance. The people should understand what government is doing, what direction they are going, and the people must make input into governance. That is why I commend the management of the Niger Delta Development Commission. Because in some of these areas before, why we did not have impact on NDDC is because NDDC was going alone. They were doing projects that the state government was already doing. But this is different. They've had meetings with communities and leaders in the Niger Delta and now put that in their budget. And that has transformed their style of governance, their style of doing projects in the region. This is what I expect the federal government to do. At the state level, the same thing, you must ask the people, what areas? Is it healthcare? Is it education? Is it infrastructure? What areas are concerns for the people? In one local government, they might not need your road.
All right.
They might need healthcare. So this
Comrade
governance to be for the people.
Marvin
It's very important.
Yobana, political affairs analyst and former representative, World Assembly of Youth. We must say many thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And back to you in the studio, Remi Ogunkaya, Executive Secretary, Run to Win. Many thanks for having you
Thank you very
on
much
the program this morning.